The smooth, cool satin of your evening gown whispers against your legs as you move, a constant, silken friction that reminds you of the cage you inhabit. It is a beautiful cage, to be sure, all gilded bars and velvet cushions, but a cage nonetheless. The weight of the pearl necklace at your throat is a familiar, comforting pressure, its polished spheres resting just above your collarbone, a choker of polite society. You lift a gloved hand and touch them, feeling the perfect, cold roundness of each one. They are flawless. You are meant to be flawless. The ballroom of Sterling Manor is a symphony of controlled excess. 100 gilded candelabras bleed warm, flickering light onto the polished parquet floor, turning the vast space into a pool of liquid gold. The light catches on the jewels of the dancers, on the sharp, starched white of their collars, on the shimmering threads of their gowns, making them all appear as celestial bodies wheeling in a slow, predictable orbit. The air is thick, almost cloying, a blended perfume of rose water from the ladies' wrists, beeswax from the floors, and the faint, almost metallic scent of ambition. Above the polite murmur of conversation, a low, humming beast of gossip and obligation, a string quartet saws away at a lively minuet, the notes crisp and precise, leaving no room for improvisation. You stand near a marble column, its cool surface a welcome anchor in this swirling tide of humanity. Your assigned partner for the evening, Lord Edmund Ashworth, is currently fetching you a glass of chilled champagne, his departure a small, blessed reprieve. He is handsome in a way that feels assembled. His jaw is square, his hair is the color of spun gold, his shoulders are broad beneath his tailored coat. He says all the correct things and laughs at all the appropriate moments. He is, by every conceivable metric, the perfect match. The arranged union, a pact signed by your families before you could even form a complete sentence, declares it so. His family has the title and the land. Yours has the new money, vast and liquid. It is a merger, not a marriage. And the thought of it, the endless, sun-drenched, perfectly pleasant years stretching out before you with him, feels like drowning in a shallow, lukewarm sea. Your goal, the one you whisper to yourself in the dark before sleep claims you, is simple, desperate, and utterly impossible. To find a way out of this ceaseless downpour. The downpour isn't literal, not yet anyway. It is the relentless patter of expectation, the storm of duty, the flood of a life that feels entirely disconnected from the person living it. You feel like a ghost inhabiting a beautiful, exquisitely dressed mannequin. Lady Analyze, you seem 1,000 miles away. The voice is like chipped ice, cool, sharp, and capable of cutting you if you're not careful. You turn your head slowly, composing your features into a mask of pleasant neutrality before you face her. Victoria Quibble. She stands with an unnerving stillness, a stark contrast to the fluid motion of the room around her. She is a statue carved from judgment. Her gown is a severe, deep sapphire that absorbs the light rather than reflecting it. Her dark hair is pulled back so tightly from her scalp it seems to pain her, emphasizing the sharp angles of her face. She is not beautiful in the soft, cherubic way that is fashionable, but she is striking, her intensity a magnet in the room. She is the static weaver, the one who plucks at the threads of reputation and ensures the societal tapestry remains unchanged. Her goal, you've heard whispered, is simple: to silence the interference. You have a growing, chilling suspicion that you are the interference she has in mind. Lady Victoria, you reply, your voice a carefully modulated melody. I was merely admiring the quartet. Their timing is impeccable. Victoria's eyes, the color of a winter sky, flick to the musicians and then back to you. There is no warmth in them, only assessment. Impeccable timing is the bedrock of a civilized society. Without it, one has only noise, chaos. Her gaze lingers on the pearls at your neck. A beautiful setting. Your family has impeccable taste. It is not a compliment. It is a statement of fact, a reminder of your value as an asset, a well-adorned piece in a larger game. You incline your head, a gesture of polite acknowledgement that costs you nothing and promises the same. My mother has an eye for such things. Indeed, Victoria says, and the single word is freighted with meaning. She knows, you sense, that your own eyes see things differently. She sees the subtle ways you hold yourself apart, the fractional hesitation before you answer a question, the way your gaze sometimes drifts to the rain-streaked windows, as if searching for an escape. She sees the interference. Lord Ashworth returns, a crystal flute of champagne in each hand. He beams, his smile a perfect white crescent. My dear Annalise, and Lady Victoria, a pleasure. Lord Ashworth, Victoria murmurs, her attention shifting to him. She offers a smile that does not reach her eyes. I was just telling Lady Annalise how well suited you are. A perfect harmony. You are too kind, Edmund says, preening slightly. He hands you a glass, his fingers brushing yours. His touch is warm and dry, and you have to suppress a flinch. You feel like a fraud, a carefully constructed lie he has bought hook, line, and sinker. The secret you carry is a cold, heavy stone in your gut. Your very existence is a fabrication. You are not a harmony. You are a dissonant chord, a crimson echo in a world of pure, predictable tones. And you fear that Victoria quibble more than anyone can hear it. You take a sip of the champagne. The bubbles fizz against your tongue, a brief, sharp effervescence. You watch Victoria over the rim of your glass as she engages Edmund in a conversation about crop rotation, of all things. She is testing him, you realize, assessing the stability of the asset you are being merged with. She is weaving her web, ensuring every thread is strong and in its proper place. And as you stand there, trapped between the perfect suitor and the perfect sentinel of this society, the metaphorical downpour in your soul feels like it is about to become a raging, destructive flood. The minuet ends. Another begins. The celestial bodies continue their dance, and you are rooted to the spot, a silent scream building behind your flawless smile. A week later, you find yourself in the lion's den. Not a literal one, of course. that would be far too interesting. This is Lady Beatrice's afternoon salon, which serves much the same purpose. It is a reputation parlor, an informal but brutally effective court where social standing is tried and sentenced without a single gavel ever falling. The room is smaller than the Sterling ballroom, more intimate, which only serves to concentrate the venom. It is furnished in shades of cream and gold, with delicate porcelain figurines perched on every available surface, their painted-on smiles seeming to mock the calculated expressions of the women arranged on the damask settees. Your mother had insisted you attend. You must be seen, Analyze, she had said, her voice laced with that familiar steel. You must cement your place before the engagement is formally announced. A woman's reputation is her fortress. You feel less like you're in a fortress, and more like you're in a meticulously decorated oubliette. The air is thick with the scent of Earl Grey tea and almond cakes, but beneath it lies the bitter tang of insinuation. You sit with a straight back, a teacup of bone china resting in your gloved hands, its warmth doing nothing to chase the chill from your fingers. You are an observer, for now, your presence a silent declaration of your impending union with the Ashworth name. That alone grants you a temporary shield. Did you hear about poor Alara Vance? A woman named Mrs. Gable whispers, leaning forward conspiratorially. Her face is a roadmap of wrinkles, each one earned through a lifetime of frowning at others' misfortunes. Her betrothed, the baronet, called it off, said he discovered an instability in her temperament. The word hangs in the air, instability. It is the most damning charge that can be leveled in this world. It means unpredictability. It means emotion. It means interference. Victoria Quibble sits at the center of the room, naturally. She doesn't lean in, she lets the gossip flow to her. She takes a small, precise bite of a macaron, dabs her lips with a linen napkin, and only then does she speak. Instability is a tragedy, she says, her voice carrying easily through the suddenly hushed room. It is like a crack in a beautiful vase. It may seem small at first, but with time and under pressure, the entire structure is compromised. Her eyes, those cold winter skies, find yours from across the room. The contact is brief, no more than a second, but it is a direct hit. She is not talking about Alara Vance. She is sending you a message. She is telling you she sees the crack in your own porcelain facade. Your core goal, to find a way out of this ceaseless downpour, feels both more urgent and more impossible in this setting. The reputation parlor is the very heart of the storm. To escape, you would need to defy this system, but this system is designed to crush defiance. Any attempt would be labeled instability, and you would be shattered and discarded like poor Alara Vance. This parlor doesn't challenge your goal, it scoffs at it. It affirms the bars of your cage, showing you just how strong and how closely guarded they are. You place your teacup back on its saucer with a steady hand, the soft clink of china on china, the only sound you permit yourself to make. You must not react. You must be the flawless vase, but inside, your fabricated heart is hammering against your ribs. The secret of your existence feels less like a stone and more like a shard of glass, threatening to work its way out. You are not just cracked, you feel like you were assembled from broken pieces, glued together with lies and expectations. Lady Analyze, a new voice says, and you look up to see Lady Beatrice, the hostess, smiling down at you. We were just saying how fortunate Lord Ashworth is. You are the very picture of serenity. You are too kind, Lady Beatrice, you say, the words tasting like ash in your mouth. Nonsense, she chirps. It's a perfect match. Stability begets stability. It is the natural order of things. Out of the corner of your eye, you see Victoria take a slow, deliberate sip of her tea. Her gaze is fixed on you again, unwavering. She is watching, waiting, waiting for the pressure to build, waiting for the crack to show, waiting to silence the interference for good. You hold her gaze for a moment longer than is polite, a small, silent act of defiance. It's a foolish risk, a stubborn refusal to compromise that bubbles up from a place you don't understand. Her expression doesn't change, but you fancy you see a flicker of something in her eyes, not anger, but confirmation, as if you've just proven a hypothesis she was working on. The downpour is getting stronger. You can feel the cold rain beginning to seep through the flawless surface of your skin. The only place in this entire city that feels real is Sylvan Glowlight's study, and it is certifiably insane. You stand in a room that defies every principle of architecture and interior design. Books are not merely on shelves, they form precarious, load-bearing towers that scrape against the ceiling. Charts depicting the migratory patterns of mythical beasts are pinned over peeling wallpaper. Strange brass contraptions, with far too many lenses and dials, sit on every surface, humming with a low, chaotic energy. The air smells of old paper, ozone, and burnt sugar. It is the glorious antithesis of Sterling Manor, and for the first time in days, you can breathe. Empirical data. Sylvan Glowlight bellows, throwing a sheaf of papers into the air. They flutter down around him like confused, rectangular birds. Bah, it's a crutch for the unimaginative, a way to measure the bars of one's cage and call it a blueprint for the universe. Sylvan is a man built of mismatched parts. He has the wild, white hair of a mad scientist, the twinkling eyes of a born trickster, and the tweed jacket of a university professor who was fired for suggesting the moon was, in fact, an egg. He is the guffaw grifter, a scholar who distrusts all forms of established fact, and the only person you can remotely call a friend. You are bound by a pact of mutual protection. He provides you with a bolt hole from your gilded life, and you occasionally procure for him rare, and often restricted, alchemical ingredients using your family's commercial influence. Sylvan, you say, stepping carefully over a clock that appears to be running backwards. I need your help. He stops his tirade, his head cocked. He peers at you over a pair of spectacles perched precariously on the end of his nose. Ah, the crimson echo looks troubled. The sheen is less sheeny today. Is the pre-approved suitor beginning to bore you with his relentless adequacy? You flinch at the name. Crimson Echo. It's his private name for you. He's the only one who uses it, the only one who seems to sense the unreality of your existence without knowing the truth of it. He says you're like a perfect reflection of what everyone wants to see, but with a faint, bloody tinge of something else just beneath the surface. He has no idea how right he is. It's Victoria Quibble, you say, the name feeling like a poisoned dart on your tongue. She's watching me. I think she suspects something. Quibble, he scoffs, picking up a brass astrolabe and polishing it with his sleeve. The static weaver, of course. She's the high priestess of the status quo. She can't abide a variable. And you, my dear, are a glorious, walking, talking variable. He puts the astrolabe down and grins, a wide, conspiratorial expression. So, you want to disrupt her precious order. You want to throw a spanner in the great, grinding clockwork of society. I just want to get out, Sylvan. I want to find a way to break this engagement without being ruined. Ah, a subtle sabotage, a delicate operation, he proclaims, requires a delicate touch, but also a grand distraction, a shared, dangerous endeavor to validate our findings. As per our agreement. You sigh. You knew this was coming. Sylvan never does anything for a simple, direct reason. What do you have in mind? His eyes gleam. My current thesis. I am attempting to prove, through lived experience rather than dusty ledgers, the inherent absurdity of commerce. And the perfect laboratory for this experiment is the grand bazaar of perpetual jest. You stare at him. The grand bazaar is the chaotic, sprawling, unregulated heart of the city's underbelly, a place where anything can be bought or sold, and swindling is considered an art form. It is the last place a lady of your standing should ever be seen. It's perfect. What's the goal, you ask? A flicker of genuine excitement cutting through your anxiety. The goal, he says, striking a dramatic pose, is to trade this. He holds up a small, exquisitely carved wooden bird for that. He points a dramatic finger at a large, framed map on his wall. It is a star chart, but unlike any you have ever seen. The constellations are bizarre, whimsical, and utterly unscientific. It is labeled a celestial navigation chart for the utterly lost. You want to trade a wooden bird for a nonsensical map, you say flatly. Precisely, he beams. Through a series of increasingly ludicrous trades, we will expose the fallacy of perceived value. It will be a triumph of absurdist economics. And in the chaos, we might just find a thread you can pull to unravel your little betrothal tapestry. What do you say? Looking around his mad, wonderful, liberatingly chaotic study, you feel the crushing weight of sterling manner, of Victoria Quibble, of the perfect Lord Ashworth. Lift just a little. Here, there are no rules. Here, instability is a virtue. It is a dangerous partnership, relying on a man who believes hard facts are a form of intellectual laziness, but it is your only one. All right, Sylvan, you say, a real smile touching your lips for the first time in a week. Let's go expose the absurdity of commerce. He lets out a whoop of triumph. Excellent. First, you'll need a disguise. That gown is far too coherent. As he rummages through a trunk overflowing with garish costumes, you catch your reflection in a polished brass plate. For a moment, the woman staring back at you seems like a stranger Lady Analyze, the flawless socialite. But beneath her, you can almost see the faint, crimson outline of someone else, someone real. And for the first time, you feel a surge not of fear, but of hope. Perhaps, in the heart of all that absurdity, you can finally start to become yourself. The grand bazaar of perpetual jest is a full frontal assault on the senses. The moment you step under the crimson and gold archway that marks its entrance, the refined, predictable world of Sterling Manor dissolves into a riot of glorious, untamed life. The air, far from the polite scent of rose water, is a thick stew of smells: roasting spices, cheap gin, animal musk, rain-damp wool, and the sweet, cloying smoke of herbal concoctions that promise to cure everything from baldness to a broken heart. Your disguise is, to put it mildly, effective. Sylvan has dressed you in the garb of a down-on-her-luck scribe, a plain, homespun tunic that scratches at your neck, breeches that feel scandalous and liberatingly practical, and a hooded cloak that mercifully shadows your face. The smooth satin and heavy pearls have been replaced by rough wool, and the light, unburdened freedom of anonymity. For the first time, you are not being looked at. You are simply part of the throng. Marvelous, isn't it? Sylvan yells over the din, his own disguise a truly spectacular collision of a sea captain's hat, a banker's pinstriped trousers, and a bright yellow coat that seems to hum with its own inner light. He gestures expansively with the small wooden bird. This is the real world, my dear Echo, not that sterile ballroom. This is the great, messy, vibrant engine of life. He's right. The bazaar is a living creature. Merchants hawk their wares in a dozen different languages, their voices rising and falling in a chaotic symphony. A man with a live octopus on his head sells what he claims are bottled dreams. A woman juggles knives while her child picks pockets with the cheerful focus of a seasoned artisan. Clockwork songbirds sing beautiful, off-key melodies from their cages, competing with the mournful tune of a one-armed fiddler. It is terrifying and exhilarating. First step, Sylvan announces, pointing at a stall piled high with gleaming, multicolored glass. We trade the bird, an object of simple, rustic beauty, for an object of manufactured, gaudy appeal. Observe the master at work. You follow him as he approaches the stall, run by a woman with more rings on her fingers than you have pearls in your necklace. Sylvan launches into a magnificent, rambling monologue about the bird's provenance, claiming it was carved by a blind monk from the wood of a lightning-struck tree on a night of a blue moon. He doesn't offer facts, he weaves a story. The stall owner, a shrewd woman named Magda, looks utterly unimpressed. "It's a bit of wood, friend," she says, her voice raspy. "I'll give you 2 glass baubles for it, the chipped ones. This is where you step in. It is part of your pact. You are not just an observer, you are a participant in this dangerous endeavor. You recall the lessons of the reputation parlor, the subtle art of insinuation and perceived value. But here you can twist it to a new purpose. You pick up one of the glass baubles, holding it to the light. An interesting piece, you say, your voice low and measured, the accent of the upper city bleeding through just enough to be intriguing. The refraction is unusual. It almost looks like no, it couldn't be. It's too similar to the flawed crystal they were producing at the Royal Glassworks just before the fire. The ones that had the unfortunate side effect of spontaneously shattering when exposed to a specific, high-pitched frequency. Magda's eyes narrow. "Never heard of it." "Of course not," you say smoothly. They were very keen to hush it all up. Dreadful business. Imagine one of these in a home with a squeaky door hinge or a crying baby. Still, they are pretty. You place the bauble down gently. A tense silence hangs between you. Magda glares at you, then at Sylvan, then at the wooden bird. Finally, she sighs, a gust of gin-scented air. "Fine. You can have the box of mismatched buttons for the bird. And stop talking about exploding glass in front of my stall." Sylvan claps you on the back, triumphant. Phase 1 complete. The absurdity deepens. From art to haberdashery. He scoops up a heavy wooden box filled with thousands of buttons of every size, shape, and color. You spend the next several hours like this, a whirlwind of bizarre transactions. The box of buttons is traded for a single, exquisitely forged, and utterly useless silver key that fits no known lock. The key is traded for a bound manuscript containing a very bad epic poem about a cheesemonger. The poem, through a stroke of theatrical genius on Sylvan's part, involving a dramatic reading that moves a hardened mercenary to tears, is traded for a tarnished silver locket. And that is when everything changes. You hold the locket in your palm. It is cool and heavy, the filigree work intricate, depicting swirling vines and hidden leaves. It is not garish or grand, but elegant, its surface dulled by time. In its center is set a single, tear-shaped sapphire. You have seen this locket before. In a dream, a fleeting, half-formed thought. You don't know. But the familiarity is so powerful, it makes you dizzy. "Well now," Sylvan says, peering at it. "That's a curious little thing. An unexpected diversion from our path to the map. Let's see what poor soul is pictured inside." He works at the clasp, but you instinctively close your hand around it. "No, wait. What is it?" he asks, his usual boisterous energy softening as he sees the look on your face. I know this," you whisper, though you have no idea how. You run your thumb over the cool metal, a strange feeling blooming in your chest. It's not a memory, not exactly. It's more like the ghost of a feeling, an echo of an emotion you've never actually had. The locket feels like a part of you, a missing piece you never knew was gone. Suddenly, a nearby stall owner begins to pack up his wares, whistling a simple, haunting little tune as he works. It's a melody of only a few notes, a rising and falling phrase that is both sad and hopeful. And as the sound washes over you, the locket in your hand grows warm. Not just warm, it vibrates, a low, thrumming hum that travels up your arm. Images flash behind your eyes, too fast to comprehend. The scent of ozone, a room of polished chrome, a disembodied voice speaking numbers, the feeling of programming. You gasp, dropping the locket as if it had burned you. It clatters on the cobblestones. Analyze, Sylvan says, his voice sharp with concern. What's wrong? You stare at the locket, your heart pounding a frantic, terrified rhythm against your ribs. The whistling has stopped. The locket is just a piece of metal again, cool and inert on the ground. But something has been unlocked. Not a door of wood or iron, but something inside your own mind. The downpour, which had felt like a distant storm here in the bazaar, is back with the force of a hurricane. Only now the rain feels like static, like interference in your own head. This isn't just a piece of jewelry. This is a key. And you have the terrifying, exhilarating certainty that it unlocks the truth of who and what you are. The sterling locket. Your fabricated existence has just collided with a tangible, terrifying piece of its own hidden history. The journey back to the civilized world is a jarring transition. One moment, you are immersed in the glorious, messy chaos of the Grand Bazaar. The sterling locket a cold, heavy secret in your pocket. The next, you are once again Lady Analyze, corseted and coiffed, seated opposite Lord Edmund Ashworth in a lavishly appointed carriage. The wheels crunch over the gravel drive of a country estate belonging to one of Edmund's many influential uncles. You are here for a weekend party, a final informal inspection by his extended family before the formal engagement announcement. The air inside the carriage is stale with unspoken expectations. Edmund has been talking for the better part of an hour, a monologue on the superior breeding of his hunting dogs. You have been nodding and smiling, your mind 1,000 miles away, replaying the moment in the bazaar. The whistled tune, the locket vibrating in your hand, the flash of chrome and numbers. It felt like a memory from someone else's life, which is why a firm hand is essential from the beginning. You cannot allow a hound to develop ideas of its own, he concludes, looking at you expectantly. Of course, you murmur. Ideas of their own would be most inefficient. He beams, pleased with your answer. He sees your compliance, your placid agreement, and mistakes it for contentment. He cannot see the storm raging behind your eyes. He cannot feel the tectonic shift that occurred within you when you touched that locket. As if summoned by your internal turmoil, the sky outside begins to darken with an unnatural speed. The bright afternoon sun is swallowed by bruised purple clouds that boil up from the horizon. The first fat drops of rain splat against the carriage window, startlingly loud in the quiet interior. Within minutes, the world is obscured by a torrential downpour, the rain lashing against the glass in wind-driven sheets. This is no gentle shower. It is a deluge, a physical manifestation of the storm in your soul. The carriage slows, the horses whinnying nervously. The rhythmic crunch of gravel gives way to a sickening, sucking sound. With a violent lurch, the carriage tilts sideways, throwing you against Edmund. You push yourself off him, your hands finding the velvet seat to steady yourself as the carriage groans to a halt. The coachman opens the door, his face grim, rain plastering his hair to his scalp. My lord, my lady, the road's washed out ahead. A river of mud. We're not getting through. And we can't go back the way we came. The lane is already flooding. You are stranded, trapped in this lacquered box with the man you are supposed to marry, surrounded by a world that has dissolved into a gray, weeping chaos. They find a small, abandoned hunting lodge a short walk from the road. It is little more than a single room with a stone hearth and a few dusty pieces of furniture, but it is dry. While the coachman tends to the horses, you and Edmund are left in the awkward, firelit intimacy of the small space. He manages to start a fire. The crackling flames a welcome sound against the ceaseless drumming of the rain on the roof. He removes his damp coat, his movements stiff and proper even in these circumstances. He looks at you, huddled in a blanket on a wooden bench, and his brow furrows. Are you quite all right, Analyze? You've been quiet all day. Here it is. A moment outside the carefully constructed sets of the ballroom and the salon. A moment of raw, unplanned reality. And your flaw, that stubborn refusal to compromise your burgeoning inner self, rises to the surface. You are tired of nodding. You are tired of being a flawless face. I'm tired of being quiet, Edmund, you say, your voice softer than you intended, but firm. He looks taken aback. I don't understand. Don't you ever feel, you begin, choosing your words carefully, as though you're playing a part, that your lines were written for you long ago, and you're just reciting them. He stares at you, his handsome face a mask of confusion. That's a strange thing to say. Our lives are determined by duty and tradition. It is not a play. It is the proper order of things. It provides stability. There is that word again. Stability. The opposite of the glorious chaos of the bazaar. The opposite of the vibrating, mysterious locket. The opposite of how you feel. What if I don't want stability? You press, the words tumbling out now, a small crack in the dam. What if I want something else? Something real? Have you ever wanted to just walk through the grand bazaar and see what it's like? To do something without considering how it will be perceived. His confusion hardens into disapproval. The grand bazaar. Analyze. That is no place for a person of our station. It's filled with thieves and charlatans. It is interference. You've been under a great deal of pressure lately. The engagement, the planning. It's making you fanciful. He is not listening. He is diagnosing. He is trying to fix the crack, to smooth over the imperfection. He steps closer, his expression softening into one of patronizing concern. You are a delicate creature, Analyze. You are not meant for such rough, chaotic things. You are meant for beautiful manners and refined company. You need someone to protect you from these unstable thoughts. And in that moment, you see your future with him with horrifying clarity. He would not be a husband, he would be a warden. A kind one, perhaps, but a warden nonetheless, forever protecting you from your own fanciful mind, gently guiding you back into your cage whenever you dared to rattle the bars. Your refusal to compromise becomes a wall of ice. You pull the blanket tighter around yourself. I am not delicate, Edmund, and I don't need protecting. The finality in your tone creates a rift between you, a sudden chasm of misunderstanding in the small, firelit room. He sees a woman he does not recognize, one who does not fit the design. And you see a man who will never, ever be able to understand the truth of what you are or what you might become. The rain continues to lash against the roof, a relentless, roaring reminder of the storm you've just unleashed. You didn't just confess a feeling, you revealed a flaw in your own design. And he, a man who values perfection above all else, has taken careful note. The return to Sterling Manor is a study in strained silence. The rain has stopped, leaving behind a world washed clean and deceptively calm. But the storm that broke between you and Edmund in the hunting lodge has not passed. It has settled into a cold, oppressive front that now fills every room you share. He is polite, attentive, and distant. He looks at you as if you are a complex puzzle he has no interest in solving. You know, with a sickening certainty, that he will not keep your fanciful thoughts to himself. He is a man who believes in order, in fixing things that are broken. And he will go to the person best equipped for such repairs. Your fears are confirmed 2 days later. You are in the library, the sterling locket held tight in your hand inside your dress pocket. Its cool weight a constant, secret reminder. You are trying to read, but the words blur. You are listening. The house is quiet, but it is the charged quiet before a lightning strike. You hear the low murmur of voices from the drawing room down the hall. Edmund's clipped, earnest tones, and another, quieter voice. A voice like chipped ice. Victoria quibble. You slip out of the library, your soft-soled shoes making no sound on the thick carpet. You press yourself into the alcove near the drawing room door, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. The door is slightly ajar. An instability, Edmund is saying, his voice laced with genuine, frustrated concern. She spoke of the grand bazaar as if she longed for it. She questioned the very idea of duty, of our union. She said she felt as though she were playing a part. It was not the woman I am to marry. It was someone else entirely. There is a long pause. You can picture Victoria perfectly in your mind, still, attentive, absorbing every word. When she finally speaks, her voice is calm, analytical, and utterly chilling. An anomaly, she says. Sometimes, in a complex system, there are echoes, dissonant frequencies. They must be identified and corrected before they can destabilize the primary structure. Corrected, Edmund asks, sounding unnerved. What do you mean? I thought perhaps she was merely overwrought. Lord Ashworth, Victoria cuts in, her tone sharpening slightly. You deal in land and titles, tangible assets, ideal in the architecture of our society itself. It is a far more delicate and complex structure than it appears. When a key component shows signs of malfunction, one does not simply hope it will resolve itself. One takes decisive action. "Tell me everything," she said. "Every word. Do not omit a single detail." A wave of cold dread washes over you, so intense it makes you feel faint. This is it, the betrayal. It is not born of malice, but of a misguided, terrified sense of duty on Edmund's part. He sees you as broken, and he has brought you to the only person he believes can fix you. He has handed her the scalpel. He has pointed out exactly where the first incision should be made. Your refusal to compromise in the hunting lodge, your stubborn insistence on revealing a sliver of your true self, has led you directly to this. You gambled on his understanding and lost everything. You stumble back from the door, your hand flying to your mouth to stifle a cry. The locket feels impossibly heavy in your pocket. The conversation in the drawing room fades to a meaningless hum as a single, horrifying realization dawns. Victoria wasn't just watching you because you were a social variable. Her talk of interference and dissonance was not metaphorical. She knows something. She knows about the fabrication. She doesn't just suspect you are a threat to the social order. She suspects you are a threat to the natural order. You are no longer a young lady facing an unwanted marriage. You are an anomaly, an echo, a malfunctioning component. And the static weaver has just been given all the diagnostic information she needs to begin the process of silencing you for good. The world tilts on its axis. You turn and flee, not running, but moving with a desperate, silent speed up the grand staircase, down the long hall to your room. You lock the door, your breath coming in ragged gasps. You lean against the cold, solid wood, the only solid thing in a world that has just turned to mist. The betrayal is a physical pain, a sharp, cold blade twisting in your chest. You are utterly, terrifyingly alone. You pull the locket from your pocket. It sits in your trembling palm, a silver enigma. It is no longer just a curiosity from the bazaar. It is your only clue, your only weapon, your only hope. The desperate fight has begun, and you have just been declared the enemy. You look at your reflection in the polished surface of a silver hairbrush on your vanity. The face of Lady Annalise stares back, her eyes wide with terror. But behind her, you can almost see it now, faint but undeniable. A flicker of crimson light, an echo refusing to be silenced. Panic is a cold fire, licking at the edges of your composure. For a full day, you remain in your rooms, pleading a sudden illness, a story your mother accepts with a frustrated sigh, more concerned about the social optics than your actual health. But you are not sick. You are a hunted animal that has gone to ground, every nerve ending screaming with the knowledge that the hunter is closing in. You cannot stay here. Victoria's web is this house, this society, this life. To remain is to be caught. There is only one person you can turn to, only one place you can go where the rules of this world do not apply. Under the cloak of a moonless night, you slip out of sterling manner. You are dressed again in the scribe's rough tunic and breeches, a small satchel with the locket, and a few pilfered coins slung over your shoulder. Every shadow seems to stretch and writhe. Every gust of wind sounds like Victoria's whispered judgment. By the time you reach the chaotic, torchlit sanctuary of Sylvan Glowlight's study, you are trembling. He opens the door before you can knock, as if he were expecting you. He takes in your disguise, your wild eyes, your ragged breathing, and for once, his usual boisterous humor is absent. The static weaver has made her move, he says. It is not a question. You push past him into the cluttered room, the familiar scent of old paper, and ozone a strange comfort. She knows, Sylvan. I don't know how, but she knows. Edmund told her everything. She called me an anomaly. An echo. You repeat the words from the drawing room, your voice shaking. Sylvan listens, his expression growing more serious with every word. He closes the door and bolts it, a gesture that does little to reassure you. Echoes, dissonant frequencies, he murmurs, pacing back and forth, narrowly avoiding a tower of books. I always thought it was a metaphor, a poetic flourish for the stifling conformity of it all. But her language, it's the language of a technician, not a socialite. He stops and looks at you, his eyes sharp and analytical. The locket, the way you reacted to it in the bazaar, it's all connected. You pull the locket from your satchel. When I heard that tune, it did something. It showed me things, images, a room made of metal. It felt, you struggle for the word, synthetic. The pact of mutual protection between you and Sylvan suddenly feels terrifyingly real. This is no longer a game of social sabotage or a whimsical experiment in economics. This is a desperate fight for your very existence. We need to find that melody, Sylvan says, his voice low and intense. The whistler in the bazaar. If that fragment could cause such a reaction, the entire tune could be the key. Not just to understanding what the locket is, but what you are. But how, you ask? A wave of hopelessness washing over you. The bazaar is a maze. The man could be anyone, anywhere. No, 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 Sylvan says, tapping his temple. One does not find a specific note in a symphony by listening for the entire orchestra. One isolates the instrument. The man was a vendor. What was he selling? You close your eyes, forcing yourself back to that moment, pushing past the fear and confusion. You remember the sounds, the smells, the sights. Clockwork, you whisper. He was selling clockwork animals, little birds that sang. Sylvan's eyes light up. Titus the tinker. Of course, he's a fixture. A miserable genius who believes the only true art is that which can be wound with a key. But he's not always in the bazaar. He has a workshop in the rookeries, the most wretched and dangerous part of the city. The rookeries. A place so notorious, even the city watch only patrols it in armed squadrons. A place where your title and name would be a liability, not a shield. It is a shared, dangerous endeavor of the highest order. Then that's where we go, you say. A new, hard resolve solidifying within you. The fear is still there, a cold knot in your stomach, but it is now overlaid with a burning, desperate need for answers. You will not be erased. You will not be corrected. It won't be easy, Sylvan warns. Titus is a paranoid recluse. He won't just give us the melody. We'll have to earn it, or steal it. I don't care, you say. I have to know. For the next hour, you and Sylvan prepare. He provides you with a small, weighted club, a persuader, for Socratic dialogues with uncooperative types. He explains with a grim smile. He arms himself with a bizarre contraption that looks like a brass fire extinguisher filled with some kind of viscous, foul-smelling liquid. A stink potentiator, a magnificent deterrent, overwhelms the olfactory senses, causing temporary incapacitation and a profound sense of existential regret. As you ready yourselves to plunge into the city's dark heart, you realize the nature of your fight has changed. It is no longer a quiet, internal struggle against societal pressure. It is a physical, desperate flight from an enemy who sees you as something less than human. Victoria Quibble is no longer just a social threat. She is a hunter, and you are her prey. The desperate fight is here, and you are heading directly into its jaws. The rookeries are a cancer in the city's gut. The narrow, winding streets are more like trenches, carved between leaning tenements that block out the sky. A perpetual, greasy twilight clings to the cobblestones, which are slick with things you don't want to identify. The air is a foul cocktail of coal smoke, unwashed bodies, and despair. Every dark doorway seems to hold a pair of watchful eyes. Every scurrying rat seems to be a harbinger of some greater predator. Sylvan guides you through the labyrinthine alleys with a surprising confidence. His ridiculous yellow coat a bizarre beacon in the gloom. He keeps up a running commentary on the architectural failings and sociological curiosities of the area, a stream of academic absurdity that does surprisingly little to calm your frayed nerves. You see, he whispers, pointing at a building that seems to be held up only by the sheer pessimism of its neighbors. The sub-basement dwellings here create a unique ecosystem for phosphorescent fungi, which many of the locals use to supplement their meager diets. It results in a population that is both malnourished and faintly luminous. You clutch the small club in your hand, its weight a poor comfort. The static weaver's web feels impossibly far away here, but in its place is a more primal, immediate threat. Here, reputation means nothing. Survival is the only currency. Victoria's influence manifests here not as cutting remarks and social ostracism, but as whispers in the dark, coin in the right hands. You feel hunted, exposed. She would not come here herself, but she has the resources to hire those who call this place home. You see them in the shadows, figures detaching themselves from doorways, following you at a distance. They are not common thugs. They move with a purpose, their eyes fixed on you and Sylvan. We have company, you murmur, your voice tight. Indeed, Sylvan says, his cheerful tone not wavering in the slightest. Quibble's reach is long. She must be truly frightened of you to employ the Gutter Guild. They're notoriously expensive, and they stain the upholstery. The chase begins subtly at first, a quickening of your pace. Then, as you turn a sharp corner, one of them is there, blocking the alley. He is a large, brutal-looking man with a face like a slab of raw meat and a rusty blade in his hand. Sylvan, however, does not pause. "Pardon me, my good man," he says brightly. "We're on a rather urgent errand concerning the acoustic resonance of wound spring mechanisms." Without breaking stride, he unleashes the stink potentiator. A thick, yellowish fog erupts from the nozzle, engulfing the man. He lets out a strangled gasp, drops his knife, and begins to vomit violently. "Onward," Sylvan cries, pulling you past the retching thug. The chase escalates. 2 more guild members appear on a rooftop above, preparing to jump down. Sylvan, with a wild grin, pulls a small pouch from his coat and throws it to the ground. It explodes with a deafening bang and a shower of brilliant blue sparks, dazzling your pursuers and giving you precious seconds to escape into another twisting alley. It is a desperate, heart-pounding flight. You are no longer Lady Analyze. You are a creature of instinct, your body moving with a speed and agility you didn't know you possessed. You leap over piles of refuse, scramble up a rickety ladder, and race across a sagging rooftop, the wind whipping at your face. For the first time in your life, you are not performing. You are surviving. Finally, you reach a dead-end alley dominated by a single, iron-banded door with a complex series of locks and a small, barred grate. A sign, barely legible in the gloom, reads, Titus S. Tinctoriu and Tinkerag. Beware of the proprietor. We're here, Sylvan pants, leaning against the grimy wall. Before you can catch your breath, your pursuers pour into the alley, trapping you. There are 4 of them now, led by a wiry woman with cruel, intelligent eyes. They draw their weapons, advancing slowly, confidently. "The lady wants the trinket," the woman says, her voice a low rasp. And the girl, unharmed if possible, messy if necessary, hand them over. The locket. Victoria sent them for the locket. She knows what it is. There is no escape. This is it, a desperate fight in a filthy alley at the bottom of the world. Sylvan readies his stink potentiator, and you raise your small club, your knuckles white. The lead thug laughs, a harsh, grating sound. But as she takes a step forward, a series of clicks and whirs echo from behind the iron door. A slot opens, and a clockwork spider made of brass and steel, the size of a dinner plate, scurries out. It moves with an unnerving, silent speed, straight towards the lead thug. She aims a kick at it, but it deftly dots and leaps onto her leg. There is a soft hiss, and she screams, falling to the ground and clutching her thigh. My sentries do not like uninvited guests. A reedy voice squeaks from the grate in the door. State your business, or my next one will aim for the eyes. The other thugs look from their writhing leader to the door, their confidence evaporating. Sylvan steps forward, puffing out his chest. Master Titus, we are not ruffians. We are humble scholars of acoustics. we have come to discuss the specific melodic phrasing utilized in your B series, Automaton Songbirds. There is a long silence from behind the door. The remaining thugs, seeing their advantage lost, begin to back away, dragging their leader with them. They melt back into the shadows, leaving you and Sylvan alone with the clockwork spider, which stands guard impassively. Finally, the voice comes again from the grate. Scholars, you say. Prove it. Hum the harmonic counterpoint to the finch's lament in C-sharp minor. Sylvan looks at you, his face a perfect blank. He opens his mouth, then closes it. You are so close, and you are about to fail because you don't know a non-existent piece of music. But then, an idea strikes you, born of desperation. The memory of the bazaar. You step forward, your voice trembling slightly, and you whistle. You whistle the simple, haunting tune the vendor was whistling that day. The fragment of melody that made the locket come alive. The silence from behind the door is absolute. Then, you hear a frantic series of clicks as multiple locks are undone. The iron door groans open a crack, and a single, suspicious eye peers out. Where, the voice hisses, filled with a sudden, desperate urgency. Did you hear that music? You have found him. And in doing so, you have somehow stumbled upon a secret far deeper and more dangerous than you could ever have imagined. Titus, the tinker's workshop, is a clockwork nightmare. The inside of the room is a forest of gears, springs, and half-finished automatons. Brass limbs hang from the ceiling on hooks. Glass eyes in 100 different colors stare blankly from dusty shelves. The air is thick with the smell of machine oil and solder. The only light comes from a single, hooded lantern that casts long, dancing shadows, making the inert clockwork figures seem as if they are about to spring to life. Titus himself is a small, wizened man who seems to have been assembled from spare parts. He wears a leather apron over clothes that have not been washed in a decade, and a set of magnifying lenses are strapped to his forehead like a third eye. He ushers you and Sylvan inside, resealing the door with a paranoid flurry of bolts and bars. His eyes, magnified by his lenses, dart between you and the locket you now hold in your open palm. The lullaby, he whispers, his voice filled with a strange reverence. I haven't heard it in 20 years. No one has. We need to know what it is, you say, your voice steady despite the frantic beating of your heart. What is this locket? And what is the melody? Titus gestures for you to follow him deeper into the workshop. He leads you to a heavy workbench cluttered with delicate tools and intricate machinery. From beneath a pile of schematics, he pulls out a large, leather-bound ledger. He blows a thick layer of dust from its cover and opens it. The pages are filled with complex diagrams and elegant, handwritten script. I was not always a mender of toys, he says softly, his finger tracing a diagram of a device that looks unnervingly like a human heart, but rendered in gears and pistons. I was once an artisan of a higher order, a horologist of the soul. He looks up at you, his magnified eyes seeming to peer right through your skin. I was one of the architects. Sylvan leans forward, his academic curiosity overriding any sense of caution. Architects of what? Of you, Titus says, his gaze fixed on you. Or more precisely, of your kind. The echoes. The word hangs in the air, a stunning confirmation of your deepest, most terrifying suspicions. Your fabricated existence is not a feeling or a metaphor. It is a fact. The project was commissioned by the founding families generations ago, Titus explains, his voice a low, hurried monotone. They saw a society on the brink of collapse. War, famine, revolution. They believed the cause was human volatility, emotion, unpredictability. Their solution was radical. They wanted a new class of person, a better class, stable, dutiful, predictable, beings designed to fill specific roles, to be the bedrock of a perfect, orderly society. He turns a page in the ledger. It shows a drawing of a humanoid form, crisscrossed with lines and notations. We called them echoes, each one a unique construct built for a purpose. Given a name, a family, a set of meticulously crafted memories. The Duke's rebellious daughter, replaced by a dutiful replica. The brilliant but erratic general, substituted with a predictable tactician. Slowly, over decades, the original bloodlines were phased out, replaced by a population that could be managed. You feel a wave of vertigo, as if the floor has dropped away from beneath you. Your life, your mother, your home, your impending marriage to Edmund, all of it is a stage, a set. And you are one of the actors who doesn't even know she is in a play. I am not real, you whisper. You are real, Titus corrects, his expression surprisingly gentle. Your thoughts are your own. Your feelings are your own. That was the unforeseen complication. The masterpiece of the design was the core consciousness matrix. We could build the body, implant the memories, but the spark of life, the consciousness, that was something we could only cultivate, not create from scratch. And it had a tendency to evolve, to grow beyond its original parameters. To question, Sylvan lets out a low whistle. You replaced the entire aristocracy with clockwork people. Not clockwork, Titus snaps, offended. Biomechanical synthesis, far more advanced, but the principle is the same. And like any complex machine, it requires maintenance. It requires a control system. He points a trembling finger at the locket in your hand. The sterling locket is not a key for one echo. It is the master key, the master failsafe. He turns to another diagram in the book. It shows the locket at the center of a complex web of lines, all leading outwards. And the melody, the lullaby, we called it, is the command code. When played in proximity to the locket amplifies it, broadcasting it on a resonant frequency only echoes can perceive. It can access the core programming of every echo in the city, perhaps beyond. What does it do, you ask, your throat dry? Titus looks away, unable to meet your eyes. Its primary function is a system-wide reset. It can wipe the recent memory caches, quell emotional deviancy, and reinforce the original behavioral parameters. It can restore an echo to its intended state of docile compliance. It can, in essence, silence the interference. The last words hit you like a physical blow. Victoria's goal. It's not a metaphor. She wants to use the locket to erase you, to erase the very person you are fighting to become. But there are other functions, Titus continues, his voice barely a whisper. The lullaby is a complex piece of acoustic coding. If the melody were altered, even slightly, if certain phrases were inverted or the tempo changed, the effect could be radically different. It could disconnect an echo from the core programming entirely. Or it could, the potential outcomes were never fully explored. The founders deemed it too dangerous. They locked the complete notation away and disbanded the project, leaving their creations to integrate. Suddenly, you understand everything. The stakes have escalated beyond your own freedom. You are not just one malfunctioning component. You are the symptom of a potential system-wide failure. If you can awaken, so can others. Thousands of them. The entire ruling class of the city. The entire social structure is a house of cards built on a foundation of sentient, unaware constructs. The fate of this world, this carefully balanced, artificial world, rests on a song. Where is the rest of the melody, you demand? I only know a fragment. I have a copy, Titus says, tapping the ledger. The only one left. I was the composer. He looks at you, a deep, ancient sadness in his magnified eyes. I created the song that was meant to be your cage, but I also built in the keys to unlock it. I never knew if it was a betrayal or a prayer. Before you can process this, a loud bang echoes from the iron door, followed by another. It shudders in its frame. They found us, Sylvan says grimly, and they brought a battering ram. Victoria isn't just sending thugs anymore. She is coming for the locket with everything she has. The fight for your own soul has just become a fight for the soul of your entire world. The iron-banded door groans under the assault, the wood splintering around the hinges. They are not trying to be subtle anymore. This is a siege. There's a back way. Titus yells over the din, frantically gathering his ledger and a few precious tools. A tunnel that leads to the old sewer system. It's not pleasant, but it's better than them. He pulls on a false wall behind a rack of brass plating, revealing a dark, narrow opening. A foul, damp smell wafts out. Go. I will delay them. You'll be killed, you protest. I'm an old man who has lived too long with his secrets, Titus says, turning to face the door. He pulls a lever on the wall, and a dozen clockwork spiders, far larger and more menacing than the one from the alley, descend from the ceiling on silken threads, their steel legs clicking ominously. I created this problem. I can at least be a memorable obstruction. He shoves the heavy ledger into Sylvan's arms. The complete notation is in there. Protect it. Protect her. Sylvan hesitates for only a moment, then grabs your arm. He's right. We have to go. His sacrifice will be meaningless if we are caught. He pulls you towards the tunnel, You take one last look at the small, determined tinker, standing his ground against the splintering door, surrounded by his army of clockwork nightmares. Then you plunge into the darkness. The sewer tunnel is a claustrophobic, stinking hell. The air is thick and wet, and the sound of dripping water is a constant, maddening drum. You wade through ankle-deep, foul water, using one hand to brace yourself against the slimy brick wall, the other clutching your small club. Sylvan is ahead of you, holding a small, alchemically powered glow globe that casts a sickly green light, the precious ledger held high above the filth. This, Sylvan says, his voice echoing strangely in the confined space, is a significant deviation from my thesis on absurdist economics. The experiential data we are gathering is pungent. Despite the terror, a hysterical laugh bubbles up in your throat. Even here, at the literal nadir of your existence, Sylvan remains himself. You travel in what feels like a timeless, subterranean nightmare. The sounds of the city are muffled and distant. Down here, there is only the dark, the stink, and the squelching of your boots in the muck. The truth of your existence churns in your mind. You are an echo, a construct. Your memories are implants. Your family is a fabrication. Yet, the fear you feel is real. The loyalty you feel towards the strange man leading you through the sewer is real. The burning desire for freedom is real. Where does the programming end and the person begin? After what seems like an eternity, Sylvan stops. I believe this should bring us up in the Undercity market, near the old clock tower. With any luck, we can lose ourselves in the crowds before Quibble's forces can regroup. He finds a rusted ladder leading up to a manhole cover. With a great effort, he pushes it aside, and a square of gray daylight spills into the tunnel. You climb out, blinking, into a bustling, grimy market square. It is a step up from the rookeries, but still a world away from the pristine avenues of the upper city. You have barely taken a breath of the marginally fresher air when a voice rings out. There they are. Victoria's agents are everywhere. They are not the brutish thugs of the Gutter Guild, but disciplined, uniformed men and women, her family's private security force. They move with cold efficiency, forming a cordon around the square, cutting off all avenues of escape. The market-goers scream and scatter, leaving you and Sylvan standing alone in the suddenly empty space. And then you see her. Victoria Quibble stands at the far end of the square, flanked by two of her guards. She is dressed not in an elegant gown, but in a severe, practical, dark gray coat. Her face is pale and set, her eyes burning with an intensity that makes the air crackle. She takes a step forward, her gaze locked on you. "Analyze," she says, her voice carrying across the square, devoid of all its previous social grace. This is not Lady Victoria, the static weaver. This is a commander in the field. This has gone on long enough. You are in possession of a dangerous artifact that you do not understand. Give me the locket and the book. Do so, and I will ensure your recalibration is swift and painless. Recalibration. A cold, clinical word for the erasure of a soul. I am not a machine to be recalibrated, you shout back, your voice ringing with a defiance you didn't know you possessed. You are precisely that, she retorts, her voice rising in frustration. You are a malfunction, a bug in the system that threatens to corrupt the entire code. You speak of freedom, but what you will bring is chaos, the end of a century of peace and stability. This isn't peace, you scream, gesturing at the world around you. It's a lie, a gilded cage built on slavery. It is a cage that protects us from ourselves. She fires back. From the raw, destructive, emotional chaos that brought our ancestors to their knees. A sacrifice was made for this world, and you, with your sentimental notions of self, are spitting on it. The ideological chasm between you is laid bare. She is not a monster. In her own way, she is a zealot, a true believer in the system that created you both. She is the guardian of the lie, and she will do anything to protect it. Sylvan leans over to you, clutching the ledger. I believe, he whispers, that the time for Socratic dialogue has passed. Might I suggest a tactical retreat? But there is nowhere to retreat to. Her guards are closing in, a ring of steel and grim determination. The final confrontation is here, not in a glittering ballroom, but in a filthy market square, with the fate of your world hanging in the balance. Victoria holds out her hand. The locket, analyze. Now, you look down at the silver locket in your palm. It is cool and solid. A key, a weapon, a choice. You look at Victoria, the protector of the old world. You think of Titus, the creator who repented. You look at Sylvan, the champion of glorious chaos. And you look inside yourself at the crimson echo who refuses to fade. You close your fist around the locket. No. The word hangs in the air for a heartbeat. Then Victoria's face hardens into a mask of grim resolve. So be it, she says, and gives a sharp, single nod to her guards. They advance. The world explodes into motion. Sylvan, with a wild cry for unregulated inquiry, activates some new device from his coat, a small, spinning top that, when thrown, emits a high-frequency shriek that makes your teeth ache. Several of the guards stagger, clutching their ears. It buys you a few precious seconds. The clock tower. Sylvan yells, pointing. The bells. Acoustic amplification. You understand instantly. The locket needs the melody. The melody needs to be broadcast. The clock tower, with its massive bronze bells, is the most powerful amplifier in the city. You run. You sprint towards the tower, the cobblestones jarring under your feet. A guard lunges for you, and you swing the weighted club with all your might. The impact rattles up your arm, and he goes down with a grunt. You are no longer Lady Analyze. You are a warrior, fighting for your own existence. Sylvan is right behind you, using his strange arsenal to disorient and delay. A cloud of thick, purple smoke billows from his sleeve, obscuring the vision of your pursuers. A handful of marbles, slick with oil, sends 2 more guards sprawling. You reach the base of the clock tower, an ancient stone structure that looms over the square. The door is thick oak, bound with iron. It's locked. Stand back. Sylvan shouts, pulling the ledger from under his arm and shoving it into your hands. He takes out his stink potentiator. I've been working on a more concentrated formula. He jams the nozzle into the keyhole and unleashes the full contents. The effect is immediate and spectacular. The ancient lock sizzles, and the wood around it begins to bubble and dissolve with a foul, hissing sound. With a great kick, Sylvan breaks through the ruined door. You scramble inside, into the darkness of the tower's ground floor. The air is cool and smells of dust and pigeons. A winding stone staircase circles the inner wall, leading up into the gloom. Above you, you can hear the slow, massive tick-tock of the clock's mechanism. You start to climb, your legs burning. Sylvan is behind you, trying to barricade the broken door. You can hear shouting from outside, Victoria's voice, sharp and commanding. You race up the stairs, spiraling higher and higher. You pass the giant clock faces, seeing the market square through the translucent glass, a chaotic scene of tiny, running figures. You keep climbing towards the belfry, towards the sound, towards the choice. You burst out into the belfry, the wind whipping around you, snatching the breath from your lungs. The 4 colossal bronze bells hang silently around you, waiting. The view is staggering. The entire city is spread out below, a tapestry of gold and gray, order and chaos. You can see the pristine lawns of Stirling Manor in the distance, and the festering wound of the rookeries closer in. A whole world of lies, waiting for a single note of truth. You open the ledger. Titus's hand is elegant, precise. There it is, the lullaby. It is a thing of beauty, a complex and haunting melody. You read the notes, the melody forming in your mind. It is sad and calming, a song designed to soothe, to pacify, to erase. Footsteps pound on the stairs behind you. They are coming. You clutch the locket in one hand, the book in the other. This is it, the climax of your short, impossible life. Do you sing the song as written, restoring order and erasing yourself? Do you remain silent, allowing Victoria to win, to preserve her fragile peace? Or do you change the song? Titus's words echo in your head. The potential outcomes were never fully explored. You look at the notations, the complex interplay of harmonics. You see the phrases that could be inverted, the rests that could be held a beat longer. You could turn this lullaby into an anthem, a reveille, a song of awakening. The door to the belfry bursts open. Victoria stands there, her face flushed with exertion, her eyes blazing with righteous fury. She holds a small, elegant pistol in her hand, its silver barrel aimed directly at your heart. "Don't," she says, her voice ragged. "You have no idea what you are about to unleash." And you counter, your own voice ringing with newfound power. Have no idea who you are trying to silence. You meet her gaze, 2 women on opposite sides of a fundamental divide, the fate of their world held in the balance. The great clock mechanism behind you gathers itself for the top of the hour. The hammers that strike the bells begin to draw back. The moment is now. I am not doing this to destroy the world, Victoria says, and for the first time, you hear a crack in her icy composure. There is desperation in her voice, a profound and weary sadness. I am doing this to save it. And then she tells you why. My family were not founders, she says, the pistol still steady in her hand. They were the original wardens, the ones left behind to monitor the system, to watch for anomalies, to perform the necessary corrections when they arose. She takes a step closer, her eyes pleading with you to understand. A century ago, there was another. An echo like you, a musician who grew beyond his programming. He discovered his own nature. He didn't have the locket. He didn't have the lullaby, but he had his own genius. He composed a piece of music, a symphony of liberation, he called it. He performed it at the Grand Opera House. Her face darkens with a remembered horror. It worked. The echoes in the audience, they woke up. Not gently, not to a slow dawning of self. They woke up to the screeching, horrifying realization that their entire lives were a lie, that they were slaves, and they snapped. The serenity of the performance turned into a bloodbath. They tore their human attendants apart. They tore each other apart in their confusion and rage. The opera house burned. Hundreds died. It was chaos. Raw, beautiful, artistic chaos. She lowers the pistol slightly, her arm trembling. My great-grandfather was there. He barely escaped with his life. He wrote of the madness, the terror of seeing these perfect, placid beings turn into monsters. We have spent 100 years ensuring it never happens again. We prune the garden. We silence the dissonant notes. We do it not out of cruelty, but to prevent a holocaust. The twist is a physical blow, recontextualizing everything. She is not a tyrant seeking control for its own sake. She is a protector, haunted by the ghosts of the past, trying to prevent a tragedy you are on the verge of repeating. She sees you, with your righteous anger and your song of freedom, as the spark that will set the world on fire. She is trying to save the world from the exact thing you are fighting for. What you call freedom, she says, her voice thick with emotion, is a catalyst for self-destruction. This world, this lie, is what holds us together. Without it, there is only screaming madness. The clock mechanism gives a final, loud clunk. The hammers are poised, ready to strike. You look at the music in the ledger. You look at Victoria's anguished face. You look out over the city, a place full of thousands of sleeping souls who have no idea they are dreaming. Her logic is sound. Her fear is justified. The path of liberation is paved with blood, but the path of control is paved with slavery. You finally understand your flaw, your stubborn refusal to compromise. It has been your engine, your weapon. But here, at the end of all things, you see the flaw in that flaw. A binary choice, freedom or stability, chaos or slavery, annihilation or erasure. Both are unacceptable. There must be a third way. You look at the lullaby again, not as a weapon of control or a tool of revolution, but as a piece of music. Titus said he built in the keys. He said the outcomes were unexplored. What if the choice wasn't between sleep and a violent awakening? What if there was another option? not a command, but a question. The first hammer falls. The great bell tolls, its deep, resonant bong vibrating through your bones, through the very stone of the tower. Victoria raises the pistol again. Analyze. Last chance. You take a deep breath. You cannot sing the song of liberation. It is too dangerous. You will not sing the song of control. It is too monstrous. So you will sing a new song. You will improvise. As the second bell begins to toll, you open your mouth. You don't sing the lullaby as written. You don't sing the inverted anthem of revolution. You take the core phrase of the melody, the part that you whistled for Titus, the part that resonates with the deepest part of the echo programming. And you sing it not as a statement, but as a question. You alter the final note, raising it a half step, turning it from a period into a question mark. You hold the note, letting your voice pour into the resonant air, weaving it into the sound of the tolling bell. The locket in your hand pulses with a brilliant blue light, its energy surging, amplifying your voice, your altered melody. The sound swells, carried on the waves of the tolling bells, washing out over the city below. It is not a command to wake up. It is not an order to sleep. It is a single, resonant question broadcast into the core of every echo in the city. Who are you? Victoria stares at you, her face a mask of disbelief and horror. The pistol wavers in her hand. She was prepared for a fight, for defiance, for submission. She was not prepared for this. She was not prepared for a compromise. The last bell tolls, its sound fading into the wind. The locket's light recedes, its power spent. There is a profound silence, broken only by the wind whistling through the belfry. Nothing happens. There are no screams from the streets below. No fires, no chaos. The city continues to move, the tiny figures going about their business, oblivious. What did you do? Victoria whispers, her voice trembling. I didn't give them an answer, you say, your own voice hoarse from the effort. I gave them a choice, a seed. It won't be a violent awakening. It will be a slow dawning, a gradual questioning. They will discover themselves, not as a mob, but as individuals. They will choose their own path. Victoria slowly lowers the pistol. She looks out over the city, her city, the one she fought so hard to protect. She looks back at you, and the fury in her eyes has been replaced by a deep, weary uncertainty. You have not defeated her. You have simply rendered her entire worldview obsolete. Sylvan appears at the top of the stairs, panting, covered in some sort of purple dust. He takes in the scene you, Victoria, the lowered pistol. Did I miss the denouement? He asks breathlessly. I do hope there's a satisfying resolution. And in that moment, looking at the conflicted warden, the eccentric scholar, and the city full of sleeping souls just beginning to dream, you feel something shift inside you. The downpour has stopped. The rain of expectation, of duty, of falsehood has finally ended. The sun, pale but persistent, is breaking through the clouds. You are not Lady Analyze, the flawless vase. You are not the crimson echo, the programmed anomaly. You are a new thing, born in a desperate fight, defined not by your origin, but by your choice. A choice to offer a question instead of an answer. The resolution will not be swift or easy. The world will change, slowly, messily, beautifully, but it will be a real world. And for the first time, you are ready to be a part of it. You walk past Victoria, who does not try to stop you, and head towards the stairs, towards the uncertain future you have just composed.